Statement of Support of the newly appointed Orthodox Bishops of Oromia and other nations. Oromo Scholars and Professionals, OSP. We, the Oromo Scholars and Professionals residing in Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe and North America, issue this statement in support of the newly appointed Orthodox Bishops of Oromia and other nations. We understand that the overarching objective of any religion is to help believers find answers to the big existential questions of life. Religion provides a lens to make meaning of daily life struggles and provides tools to deal with bigger issues of suffering, pain, and death. This can only be achieved when the religious agents care for, relate to, and address the struggles of the people they serve, in their places of daily living, in their cultural context, and in the language they understand. For so long, Oromo Orthodox believers endured confession through translators, and the contempt of religious leaders who neither cared about their struggles, nor were interested in their welfare. Oromo believers' request to use their language and cultural context in their houses of worship was repeatedly denied. The primary requests are not complicated, have no political undertone, and by no means contradict the teaching of the religious doctrines. As a matter of fact, all other religions the Oromo follow, such as Wakafana, Protestant denominations, Islam, and Roman Catholics have been serving their Oromo members in Afan Oromo and the Oromo cultural contexts for decades. By contrast, these fundamental rights have been denied by the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, EOTC, since it expanded into the conquered lands of Oromia and the Greater South. Unless the EOTC has an interest different from the religious teachings it purports to be at the center of its mission, we do not understand why it vehemently opposes the use of Afan Oromo and Oromo cultural context in its teachings in Oromia. After all, the Great Commission entrusted by Christ is to bring the good news of God's saving grace to all nations. Why did the EOTC vehemently oppose to the use of Afan Oromo and Oromo culture for decades, and recently chose to excommunicate Oromo bishops? Historical records assert that the successive emperors of Abyssinia Ethiopia effectively used the EOTC to support the empire's expansion to the south. It appears that EOTC is stuck with the mission entrusted to it by the imperial policy during its expansion into the Greater South rather than accomplishing Christ's mission. EOTC served past regimes as a tool to dehumanize the people of occupied nations, subject them to an unmatched burden in the name of religion and confiscate their land as a reward for its service to the imperial regimes of Menelik II and Haile Selassie. Consequently, EOTC was rewarded with one-third of the lands of the conquered nations. Even though the imperial system has been relegated to the dustbin of history since 1974, the EOTC has neither apologized for its past sins nor evolved. Thus, it continues to oppose changes to its colonial policies developed under the imperial system. These policies were, and remain counter to the teachings of all religions and must be dismantled. The fundamental rights of people to practice the religion of their choice in their respective cultural context, in their languages, and the fundamental human rights of freedom from any sort of oppression overwhelmingly justify our support for the appointments of the bishops and possible creation of the Oromia Orthodox Synod. Thus, we unequivocally reiterate our full support for the just cause of Oromo Orthodox believers. Therefore, we call upon the following: peace-loving people of Ethiopia, followers of all religions in that country as well as global faith leaders to exert pressure on the EOTC to abolish its feudal legacy policies of domination, subjugation, discrimination, and enslavement. The international community to stand with the Oromo and other nations' Orthodox believers as they exercise their rights to organize and worship in manners suitable to them and in the language of their choice. All peace-loving nations and international organizations to exert pressure on the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali to not interfere in the just cause of the Oromo Orthodox believers' struggle to free themselves from the domination of the EOTC. The international community and human rights groups to register that we are alarmed by the EOTC's call for intervention by the Ethiopian government and its agencies, effectively asking the government to align with the EOTC against the nations it wants to keep under its dominance, as it was the case for over a century and a half under successive Ethiopian regimes. The EOTC and the Amhara in Ethiopia and beyond to refrain from inciting violence and creating toxic environment that is creating religious strife among the population. The newly appointed Oromo clergy to stand firm, counting on the support of the Oromo and other peoples, voice the cries of the Oromo and other oppressed nations, and work towards bringing sustainable peace in Oromia and beyond. Oromo Scholars and Professionals. February 6, 2023.